Good morning, everyone. How are you? I hope you're having a productive day. I'm teacher Isami Bitinedero, and for today's lesson, we will be discussing about how respiratory and circulatory systems working with the other organ systems. The human body is made up of several organ systems that all work together as a unit to make sure the body keeps functioning. Two of these organ systems are respiratory system and circulatory system. What is respiratory system? The human respiratory system consists of organs in the body that help us to breathe. Respirations link to breathing. The respiratory system does two very important things. It brings oxygen into our bodies and get rid of the carbon dioxide. What are the parts of the respiratory system? The respiratory system has many different parts that work together to help you breathe. Each group of parts has many separate components. Your airways deliver air into your lungs, and these airways are a complicated system that includes your mouth and nose, sinuses, pharynx or throat, trachea, bronchial tubes, and lungs. Mouth and nose are openings that pull air from outside your body into your respiratory system. Sinuses are hollow areas between the bones in your head that help regulate the temperature and humidity of the air you inhale. Pharynx or throat is a tube that delivers air from your mouth and nose to the trachea or windpipe. Trachea is a passage connecting your throat and lungs. Bronchial tubes are tubes at the bottom of your windpipe that connect into each lung. Lungs are two organs that remove oxygen from the air and pass it into your blood. From your lungs, your bloodstream delivers oxygen to all your organs and other tissues. Muscles and bones help move the air you inhale and to and out of your lungs. Some of the bones and muscles in the respiratory system include your diaphragm and ribs. Diaphragm is a muscle that helps your lungs pull in air and push it out. Ribs are bones that surround and protect your lungs and heart. When you breathe out, your blood carries carbon dioxide and other waste out of the body. Other components that work with the lungs and blood vessels include alveoli, bronchioles, capillaries, lung lobes, and pleura. Alveoli are tiny air sacs in the lungs where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. Bronchioles are small branches of the bronchial tubes that lead to the alveoli. Capillaries are blood vessels in the alveoli walls that move oxygen and carbon dioxide. Lung lobes, sections of the lungs, 3 lobes in the right lung and 2 in the left lung. Pleura are thin sacs that surround each lung lobe and separate your lungs from the chest wall. Some of the other components of your respiratory system include cilia, epiglottis, larynx, or voice bags. Cilia are tiny hairs that move in a wave-like motion to filter dust and other irritants out of your airways. Epiglottis is a tissue flap at the entrance to the trachea that closes when you swallow to keep food and liquid out of your airway. Larynx or the voice box is a hollow organ that allows you to talk and make sounds when air moves in and out. There are some misconceptions about respiratory system. Respiratory system does not work alone in transporting oxygen through the body. The respiratory system works directly with the circulatory system to provide oxygen to the body. Oxygen taken in the respiratory system moves into blood vessels that then circulate oxygen-rich blood to tissues and cells. Now that we are through discussing about respiratory system, we will move on to circulatory system. All cells in the body need to have oxygen and nutrients, and they need their wastes removed. These are the primary rules of circulatory system. The circulatory system has three main parts. We have the heart, blood, and blood vessel. The heart, blood, and blood vessel work together to service the cells of the body. Using the network of arteries, veins, and capillaries, blood carries carbon dioxide to the lungs for exhalation and picks up oxygen. From the small intestine, the blood gathers food nutrients and delivers them to every cell. The first main part of circulatory system is the heart. The heart pumps blood around the body. It sits inside the chest, in front of the lungs, and slightly to the left side. The heart is actually a double pump made up of 4 chambers, with a flow of blood going in one direction due to the presence of the heart valves. The contractions of the chambers make the sound of heartbeats. The right side of the heart. The right upper chamber, or the atrium, takes in the deoxygenated blood that is loaded with carbon dioxide. The blood is squeezed down into the right lower chamber or ventricle and taken by the artery to the lungs, where the carbon dioxide is replaced with oxygen. The left side of the heart. The oxygenated blood travels back to the heart, this time entering the left upper chamber or atrium. It is pumped into the left lower chamber or ventricle and then into the aorta or an artery. The blood starts its journey around the body once more. The next main part of circulatory system is blood. Blood consists of red blood cells to carry oxygen, white blood cells that make up part of the immune system, platelets that is needed for clothing, plasma. These are the blood cells, nutrients, and wastes float in this liquid. The last main part of circulatory system is blood vessels. Blood vessels have a range of different sizes and structures depending on the role in the body. We have the arteries. Oxygenated blood is pumped from the heart along arteries, which are muscular. Arteries divide like 3 branches until they are slender. The largest artery is aorta, which connects to the heart and picks up oxygenated blood from the left ventricle. The only artery that picks up the oxygenated blood is the pulmonary artery, which runs between the heart and lungs. Next, we have capillaries. The arteries eventually divide down into smallest blood vessel called the capillary. Capillaries are so small that blood cells can only move through them one at a time. Oxygen and food nutrients pass from these capillaries to cells. Capillaries are also connected to veins, so wastes from the cells can be transferred to the blood. Next, we have the veins. Veins have one-way valves instead of muscles, that is to stop blood from running back the wrong way. Generally, veins carry the oxygenated blood from the body to the heart, where it can be sent to the lungs. The exception is the network of pulmonary veins, which take oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Given the information about respiratory and circulatory system, we can now conclude what is the relationship and how they work together with the other organ systems in the human body. Yes, the circulatory system and respiratory system work closely together to ensure that organ tissues receive enough oxygen. Oxygen is required for cellular functions. The air breathed in and held in the lungs is transferred to the blood. The blood is circulated by the heart, which pumps the oxygenated blood from the lungs to the body. Additionally, the two body systems work together to remove carbon dioxide, which is a metabolic waste product. How do the cardiovascular and respiratory systems work together? The heart is where circulation and cooperation between the respiratory and the cardiovascular systems begin. The heart has two ventricles and two atria. The right ventricle and atrium are where blood is received from the veins. The oxygenated blood flows into the right atrium of the heart. When the heart muscle relaxes, the blood is released from the atrium and into the right ventricle. The right ventricle then pushes the blood through the pulmonary valve and into the pulmonary artery, where the blood is delivered to the lungs for retrieval of oxygen. The blood is then returned to the left side of the heart. As on the right side, the left atrium receives the blood and sends it to the ventricle when the heart muscle relaxes. Finally, the blood is pushed to the aorta and delivered to the rest of the body. The lungs. The lungs are where carbon dioxide and oxygen are exchanged. Lungs are the primary organ in the respiratory system. The process is called gas exchange. When you inhale, the alveoli in the lungs fill with oxygen. The oxygen is sent to the blood cells and the capillaries that surround the alveoli. When you exhale, the carbon dioxide in the blood is sent to the alveoli, where it is expelled from the body. At this point, the blood is now filled with oxygen and returns to the heart. Left ventricle. The heart's left ventricle is where the cardiovascular and respiratory systems come together, as this is where the oxygenated blood is delivered from the lungs into the blood. The left ventricle of the heart opens. Left ventricle. The heart's left ventricle is where the cardiovascular and respiratory systems come together, as this is where the oxygenated blood is delivered from the lungs into the blood. The left ventricle of the heart opens and blood is pumped into the chamber to prepare for delivery to the body's tissues. The valve to the aorta opens and the blood is pumped into the artery. The aorta is the major artery of the body that delivers large amounts of blood to the different parts of the body, including the legs, the arms, and the brain. Arteries. Arteries are the main sources that deliver oxygenated blood to the body, and they are dependent on the lungs for the oxygen. The blood starts at the aorta and travels to the body's extremities. The aorta branches into arterioles, which branch into even smaller vessels called capillaries. These capillaries have very small membranes that allow the oxygen to move across them and into the cells. Bronchioles and alveoli. The bronchioles and alveoli are the main parts of the lungs that deliver oxygen to the blood. The bronchioles are branches of the trachea that span the lobes of the lungs in the respiratory system. They terminate in alveoli, the site for gas exchange, which are tiny sacs surrounded by capillaries. When understanding how the cardiovascular system works with the respiratory system, These parts of the lungs are the main site for cardiovascular and respiratory interaction. That would be all. I hope you learned something in our discussion. If you have any question, clarifications, or additional informations regarding our topic, uh, just leave your comment below. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Stay safe. God bless.